Hey, welcome in to the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That is Wade Neely. I'm coming to you from the Main Street Murray Studios here in Columbia. Mr. Neely at his home. Next couple of hours talking local, regional, and national sports topics on this fine Monday afternoon. Wade, how's it going? Wade, you're on mute.
That's what I get for eating my lunch right before the show there. But good to be with you, man. Big weekend, but like you said, a glorious kind of Monday here. We're creeping deeper into the month of July, and I'm just kind of pumped to be kicking about for the next couple hours here on this good-looking Monday.
We got plenty to talk about and a lot of fun to have over this next couple of hours. Really looking forward to it. In the second hour, we'll be joined by our colleague with Main Street Media, Joe Sullivan, talking a little local basketball at the men's level, catching up on some loose ends. You know, we've had some coaching changes here in the area over the last few weeks, and hadn't had a chance to get Joe's thoughts on those, and so wanted to try to do that. So we will be visiting with Joe Sullivan in the second hour. In the second segment, we will have the biggest University of Tennessee fan west of the Mississippi, Christopher Gabriel out of Fresno, joining us. Christopher hosts the CG from J Radio in Fresno, and figured we'd get him on to talk about some orange stuff as Josh Heupel and the Tennessee Volunteers will be on hand for SEC Football Media Days tomorrow down in Atlanta. So get some thoughts from CG on that. And we'll try not to mention the Chicago White Sox. But anyway, speaking of baseball, we will be talking some Atlanta Braves later in the show. It's All-Star Week down at Truist Park. And, you know, I don't know if the home team is going to win that one tomorrow night or not, but they probably got a better chance than the typical home team does at Truist. So anyway, we'll be talking some Braves, some All-Star game. Got a nice little event that took place over the weekend that we're going to kind of go back and revisit. Lady Vol softball was in full force Columbia over the weekend. KARLYN Pickens, Savia Morgan, and a number of other Lady Vols were on hand for Camp KARLYN, their 2-day instructional camp. They held it out at Ridley Park in Columbia. We got a little time with KARLYN, with Savia, and with Terry Holder of the Lady Vols Boost Her Club. Boost Her. Nice little play on words there. They did a good job with that. But yeah, we got a little time with all of them to talk about the camp and what was going on, and we will have that later in the show as well. Again, some baseball. We will also get into a little tennis. They finished up the fortnight across the pond yesterday. NASCAR, big event out at Sonoma over the weekend. I'm pretty excited to get into that later in the show. Also some golf. So we got a lot going on here on this in July on Main Street Sports Today, and looking forward to getting into all of it. So Wade, what do you think? Should we get into all of it?
I say we get things cranked up. Like you said, we got a big show. We'll try and keep Christopher from foaming at the mouth. We're just 46 days away from the Vols season opener, so you know he's going to be chomping at the bit. But we'll do the best we can to kind of keep him grounded. Catching up with Joe is always a good time. Yeah, it's going to be a fun next couple. But yeah, I say we get things off and running here on this Monday.
Well, by all means, then let's get into it with this weekend's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Lock and load, boys and girls. The Monday Rundown is here. But before we get into the Monday Rundown, we want to remind you that each and every single Monday, we're brought to you by our friends at Zion Christian Academy. ZCA offers a faith-based, Christ-centered education right here in Murray County. So give them a call today. That number is 931-388-5831. Or you can visit zioneagles.org and schedule an appointment today. Once again, Zion Christian Academy, where they're prepared for college, equipped for purpose.
Friday's results for Major League Baseball. It was the Texas Rangers going into Houston and picking up a 7-3 victory over the Astros. The Braves, in another one-run affair, held on against St. Louis 6-5, downing the host there. In Sounds action over at Durham, North Carolina, it was the host Bulls with a 4 victory. And in WNBA play on Friday, Indiana down the Atlanta Dream 99-82, and it was Seattle 79, Connecticut 65.
Let's roll into Saturday. We right back to the Major League Baseball grind where the Astros fell to the Rangers 5-4 and the Braves defeated the Cardinals 7-6. Sounds action from Saturday. It was Nashville all over Durham. 13-1 was your final there. Saturday night, unkind on the road trip for Nashville soccer as they fall to Miami, enter Miami with a 2-1 victory over NSC. WNBA scoreboard Saturday. It was Chicago with a nice win, 87-81. Signs of life from the sky defeating the Lynx by 6 points on Saturday. The Aces, speaking of signs of life, putting up 104 points, hanging on for a 104-102 win versus Golden State. If you got up early Saturday, not much drama, but Iga Swiatek did defeat Anina Samova, the American, making history the wrong way. Tough result on Saturday as Swiatek caps off a nice Wimbledon run with a double bagel 6-0, 6-0 in that Saturday championship.
Sunday baseball action. It was the Rangers again with a 1 victory over Houston, and the Cardinals avoid the sweep at Busch Stadium with a 5-4 win over the Atlanta Braves. One run decision at Durham 4-3 to get a split of that 6-game series on the road. WNBA action from Sunday. It was Indiana again, 102, Dallas 83. The New York Liberty trailed by 17 at one point in this game, but won it 79-72 over the Dream. The Los Angeles Sparks with a 92-88 win over the Connecticut Sun, and the Mystics 74, the Storm 69. Chris Goddard wins the Scottish Open. We talked about him a little on Friday. He was out front after the opening round and for the most part stayed out there. We'll talk more about that later in the show. In the men's championship at Wimbledon, it was Yannick Sinner downing Carlos Alcaraz. And in the FIFA World Cup finals, Chelsea 3, PSG 0.
Rolling into today's schedule, folks, it is light. We are in the weird time of the sports schedule, but we do have WNBA action for tonight. A couple of games on the docket. It'll be Minnesota at Chicago. Lynx looking for payback from that result over the weekend. That game tips off at 7 p.m. At 9 o'clock tonight, Phoenix will head to Golden State. Again, a doubleheader, Minnesota at Chicago at 7. Phoenix at Golden State at 9. That is your schedule on this Monday. And ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our Monday Rundown.
Your top story brought to you as always by the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill in Columbia, bringing you our top story. Ladies and gentlemen, nothing good lasts forever. The Nashville Soccer Club's 15-game unbeaten streak, which, as we mentioned just now, came to an end in Miami on Saturday night. Enter Miami 2, Nashville Soccer Club 1. And it was a tough way to lose one, man, because the winning goal, Joe Willis, as good as he's been over this stretch, kind of got caught out of position and paid for it late in that one. Made the difference. And again, when you've not lost in 15 straight matches, it's kind of tough to be upset. But at the same time, I would imagine the boys in gold are a little disappointed at the way that one played out, Wade.
You would have to think so. Obviously, anytime. And, man, considering the opponent, kind of considering the run that they were on, you know that this one kind of hurts deep, deep down. But like you said, all good things got to come to an end. It was a tough opponent. It was a challenging environment for whatever road environment Miami actually does have. It's not the greatest in terms of fan support, but, you know, it is still going on the road, and the players did the best they could. Dropping one there, dropping a precious point would obviously kind of sour the mood. But considering the run too, really kind of stings. Now the question kind of becomes how quickly can they pick themselves up off the mat? Because as we referenced last week, their schedule is a little bit grindy over the next 30 days or so, and they got some tough opponents coming in beginning at the midweek here.
Yeah, starting Wednesday when Columbus Crew comes to town. So, I mean, you don't have a whole lot of time to feel sorry for yourselves, because the Crew certainly isn't going to feel sorry for you when they come in here in a couple of days. And, I mean, it'll kind of be a test, I would think. How do you respond to your first loss since late April?
Yeah, I mean, that's the key question. And, I didn't get to watch any of the match Saturday on assignment at Bridgestone, but kind of keeping up on socials. I mean, you look at the lineup. Yes, you see Zimmerman on the team sheet, didn't start yet again, but you got Schaffelberg back in the mix. We talked about him and his international duties for Canada during the Gold Cup. So you're kind of rolling back in. They fielded a darn near close to an A squad earlier in the week, last week versus DC United. So some of these guys are a little worn down undoubtedly, but you still had a great effort. But as you just mentioned, you're not going to get much of a reprieve. You got Columbus, who would love nothing more than to come in and at least grab a point. Those two are both sitting smack dab at 41 points on the season, tied for third and fourth in the Eastern Conference. So this is another massive showdown, and you're going to get a real kind of test of Nashville's resolve. It's kind of seemingly been there all year. We've seen them have some pick themselves up off the mat type moments. Can they do it again coming up versus a tough opponent Wednesday?
Yeah, and I mean, for and for the position that they put themselves in, the last thing that you want to do is go on a skid in the other direction. So Wednesday is huge, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, the match versus Philadelphia was the biggest match of the season a couple of weeks ago. Then the U.S. Open Cup match, depending on your viewpoint of whether they should or shouldn't be chasing that was the biggest match of the season. Then all of a sudden, Saturday's match versus Miami felt like it was the biggest. Now we just roll right into another one. This will be a big, big showdown. Didn't have Johnny Perez available Saturday versus Miami. He did pick up that red card versus the Union 2 Saturdays ago. But maybe getting kind of back to somewhat form of full strength here. Columbus is going to be a tough out, obviously. They're a tough out year in, year out, a very prideful program, a program with a lot of success. And Nashville will have to it won't be easy. They're going to have to be at kind of the level that they were 2-3 weeks ago, kind of flying high, I feel, as if they're going to get at least a point. They're going to need that effort, I should say, if they're going to get at least a point coming up on Wednesday.
Yeah, and you spoke to it, Wade. They've got a lot going on, because in addition to MLS, they are still, in the mix for a trophy, something that the Nashville Soccer Club has never managed, in their current iteration, I guess, as an MLS squad. So, it's a big time in the schedule here. And like you said, they are tied for third in points with Columbus, trailing Cincinnati by 8 points, trailing Philadelphia Union by 2. So no time to let up.
No time to let up. And, history is kind of interesting in this kind of rivalry or head-to-head battle between the two. In 4 matches at Geodis Park, Nashville's won 2, and there have been 2 draws. So Columbus has not come in and grabbed a win. The road is a little bit different story. They've kind of dominated this series at home. But can Nashville, again, if they get a point, you won't necessarily feel absolutely ecstatic. You'll feel okay. If you get a win, obviously you'll be right back to kind of where you were, and those nice, warm, fuzzy feels will return in a blink of an eye. If you somehow fall Wednesday, shouldn't really cripple where you're at kind of emotionally. But soccer's an interesting game, and momentum seemingly plays a huge part in this. Look no further than the run that they just went on, right? So how quickly can they rebound will determine where they go. They can still kind of dream about, finishing top 1, top 2, top 3 in the table. But this Wednesday match versus the Columbus Crew, a very kind of professional, if you will, opponent coming in, will go a long way to determine that.
Absolutely. Wade, you mentioned that you did not get to see Saturday's match because you were detained professionally. take us through your professional assignment Saturday evening, man. I was kind of keeping up with it a little on Bluesky. Interesting stuff. Talk to
Yeah,
us.
man. Yeah, referenced it on Friday. UFC rolling into town on Saturday and delivered in spades. 7th all-time trip to Bridgestone Arena. 17,007 folks were on hand. And for a fight night card that is, not at the top of UFC's offerings and billings. It wasn't a pay-per-view. Every fight was available for free on ESPN Plus in the prelims, and the main card was smack dab for free on ESPN. It delivered. It delivered in spades. 8 of the 12 fights had finishes, including the devastating knockout. The Black Beast, Derek Lewis, is back, and he is back in his usual tricks. He's taking his fight shorts off after the fight, throwing them in the crowd, got a big dip in. Dana White hands him the phone, says it's the president on the other line. I mean, it was kind of a circus in the main event on Saturday. And then we had one of Clarksville's very own, Nate Landwehr, was in the cards. Very back and forth. That earned Fight of the Night honors. He takes home $50,000 in a losing effort, unfortunately, but takes home an extra $50,000 for winning that Fight of the Night bonus. If you're a Murray State fan, you had a little flavor there too, because Austin Lane, the former Jacksonville Jaguar, amongst some other teams, but certainly a Murray State standout in the Murray State Hall of Fame and a 2009 OVC Defensive Player of the Year. That's maybe the good of Austin Lane. The bad was he's now on a 3-fight losing streak inside the octagon. So there were a lot of cool, compelling storylines, and there was a lot of action. There was a lot of celebrities in the crowd. Highlight of the night by far. Props to the UFC. Props to Bridgestone Arena. They show Tony Vitello sitting cage side, and the crowd erupts. And then 2 seconds later, they show Diego Pavia sitting cage side, and the crowd kind of erupts. But then there was also a lot of boos as the VOLS kind of seemingly dominated that battle. So Luke Combs was in the house as well. I mean, it was a big, big night on a night where it was, not the strongest card on paper coming in. Dana White told us after, we love Nashville and we'll get back as many times as we can. And I think Saturday went a long way to kind of ensuring that will play out.
Black and Gold was out in full force Saturday night. In addition to Diego, Tim Corbin and Clark Lee were also in the house.
Didn't see them, but I knew there was some other presence. I mean, you had 5 or 6 of the Titans there. Talked to Will Levis briefly, who, believe it or not, some fans were still willing to talk and have good vibes with. It was good to see him. Chig Nkonkwo was there. I mean, it was a big, big deal for, like I said, kind of on paper, not the strongest card, but everything about it was entertaining. You had Lauren Murphy. For not diehard UFC fans, she was kind of one of the OG pioneers of female mixed martial arts, hanging them up after 41. She's 41 years old, has been fighting since 2009. This was a cool moment for her. She got into mixed martial arts because her son had signed up for a Brazilian jiu-jitsu class, and she took him to the class so he wouldn't feel kind of intimidated or alone. And then she said, oh, hell no, I like this. So she, 3 months later, starts fighting in Alaska, in her native Alaska. And then this is 6 years before the UFC even launched its women's division. So one of the early pioneers of women's mixed martial arts was on hand too. It was a cool event. And like you said, there were no shortage of celebrities there. Didn't see Tim Corbin. Would have been nice to chat with the head baseball coach there of the Commodores.
Yeah, especially, heading into the draft and everything. It'll be interesting to see how the draft impacts them. We'll probably get into that as well. So,
and it was probably good. It was probably good that Clark Lee was probably there to have fun and support, but he's kind of got, for the first time ever, full-time responsibilities in terms of managing. There might not be a more charismatic figure in the history of Vanderbilt football than Diego Pavia. And so, yeah, you want to see what he can do on the field, but kind of keeping him as bottled up and, letting himself shine, but also keeping him focused on the product on the field. That's got to be a little bit of a new adjustment there for Clark Lee. Vanderbilt's not used to those type things.
Yeah, and so, Clark being, in relative proximity to Diego, probably not a bad idea for a high-profile event like UFC at Bridgestone. So, yeah, I smell what you're cooking there, Mr. Neely. Weekend wrap-up takes a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When I'm back, we'll be joined by Christopher Gabriel of KMJ Radio out of Fresno, the CG program. And again, the biggest Tennessee fan west of the Mississippi. Stick around.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Busy bee, yeah, busy bee. If you need
Hold on, y'all, hold on. I need to make a call. Hey, this is Brianna with Busy Bee. I'm giving you a call to let you know your technician is on his way.
333.
Oh, busy bee. Guys, not yet. Not yet.
Busy bee, oh,
Now
busy
I'm ready,
bee.
guys.
Call 775-7833.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Hey, welcome back into the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. Joining us now from the West Coast, Christopher Gabriel of KMJ Radio out of Fresno, as we get ready to talk a little SEC football media days and University of Tennessee football. Christopher, good Monday. What's up?
Good Monday to you. I always ask you this right off the top. Can you hear me okay?
We got you, brother.
Can.
All right, so let's just recap before we get rolling here. First of all, I'm loving the hair, Mo, because you and I have the same thing going. Never call it gray. It's Arctic blonde. Always remember that. It's the better way to go.
I've never heard that before, and anybody that ever heard me say that would laugh the way I did, because they would never associate me in Arctic.
Well,
anything.
Probably not me either, but to me, it sounds a little more regal, which is befitting you, and I'm going to say maybe a little bit of me. Now, I heard you talking White Sox, and Wade had to throw something in there. So I spent a couple hours compiling White Sox stats. Here they are. The only numbers that you need to know about, the White Sox, of course, lost 121 games last year. The Colorado Rockies, which, by the way, the Fresno Grizzlies single A team is in the Colorado Rockies organization, and they're just as bad. The Rockies are on pace to lose 125. That upsets me, because that would take away our record of 121 losses. The White Sox right now are on pace to lose 109. I think if the organization works hard enough, they can get into 115, 116 again. It's not out of the realm of possibility. Meanwhile, people in Chicago are still hanging banners that say, "Sell the team, Jerry. Sell the team."
Yeah, I can see why that might be the sentiment of White Sox fans. But hey, you got the Pope on your side, man. Surely things are going to look up here before long.
I'm not Catholic, but I grew up Eastern Orthodox, Greek Orthodox, so it's one and the same. And when I heard Pope Leo was the man, and of course Cubs fans in their usual delusion immediately thought that, well, he has to be a Cubs fan. And now, of course, we've seen him in his Sox hat. That's not a bad thing. That's, I'm waiting for him to come out and throw out the first pitch at Rate Field. We call it Rate Field now because somehow that's a better name for it than Guaranteed Rate
Well,
Field.
clearly there are no guarantees there.
There really are not, except for the fact that you do have Arctic blonde hair, my man.
CG, again, SEC Football Media Days opened up today down in Atlanta. You had Clark Lee making the quick turnaround from UFC action on Saturday night to get down to Atlanta for the final. And I guess technically they've not started yet. He's on the dice at 3:20 this afternoon, but Vanderbilt will be the fourth team to speak following LSU, South Carolina, and Ole Miss. Tomorrow, it's Georgia, Auburn, the Tennessee contingent, and Texas. But obviously, football's right around the corner, Chris. And Wade mentioned 46 days to opening day. What are your biggest thoughts with regards to UT football right now?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of questions. I mean, there are for most teams every year, but I think with Tennessee, one of the things that we're all wondering about is the offense. I would say if there's one thing that we can look to this year that I think is going to be okay is the defense. A lot of folks forget last year they were number 2 in the SEC. They were number 7 nationally in total defense. If you break it down into rushing and passing, the Vols were 2nd in rushing, 4th in passing. William Inge on that side, as well as, of course, Tim Banks and that whole staff. What we've seen is they are very capable of developing players. They have done that exceptionally well. They lost a couple of guys. They've got a couple of guys this year. They have depth. I think that side of the ball is going to be fine. I think those of us who like Tennessee, who follow Tennessee, get a little concerned at times that, at least in terms of secondary pass coverage, I always feel like they play a little bit too far off the man. I think there's a little bit too much space. I'm not a big zone guy. But at the end of the day, they seem to get the job done more often than not. On the offensive side of the ball, this is where things are going to be interesting. And I made sure that I had the numbers up for Joey Aguilar. I don't know who's going to win that battle. I've said on other stations, I think that Joey is going to win that job. I don't think that Josh Heupel and the staff went out and got him as an insurance policy. That's not a knock on Jake Merklinger in any way, or certainly George McIntyre. But you can make the argument as rival fans will, well, where did he play? Well, he played at Appalachian State. But when you are throwing for 6,760 yards, and granted, you had 24 interceptions, but you had 56 touchdown passes in 2 years, you're doing something right. And what that's telling me is he's a guy that is not afraid to fling it. He's not afraid to try to thread the needle. And he's a guy that's willing to take some chances. I want a guy, and this is not at all about Nico, but I want a guy who's more willing to take a chance and maybe is going to throw an INT than a guy that's going to hold it, and then, and after going through progressions, just run it. I want to see somebody flinging it a little bit because that really is the essence of the Josh Heupel offense. When you look at some of the receivers that he's got, Matthews, Staley, Brazel, you got Amari Jefferson coming in from Alabama. Is Boo Carter going to play a little bit on that side of the ball in certain situations? They're going to make use of the tight end position as he likes to do. I think it's going to be a team that's better than many think. We're going to get a lot of answers right off the bat against a good Syracuse team down in Atlanta. That's not going to be a gimme, but I think we're going to see some things that maybe start to try and echo back to what 2022 was. We'll see what Joey does. I also think this: if Joey, go on the other side of this, if Joey doesn't produce, I don't think it's going to take Josh Heupel long to bring in Jake Merklinger.
Yeah, and I like what you just said, Christopher, too. I mean, you kind of favor the high variance, if you will, kind of strategy because it feels like that's what it has taken historically to beat a team like an Alabama, obviously not last year notwithstanding, but in those years you have to absolutely be at your best and you have to cash in on those kind of high variance. Okay, yeah, it might be an interception, but you're willing to take the risk and you therefore need to take the risk if you want to give yourself a shot to really kind of be one of the premier teams.
Well, there's no question about it, Wade, and I think this is how Josh Heupel played when he was at Oklahoma. This is the way he's coached everywhere. When he was at Oklahoma, when he was at Missouri, certainly at UCF, and when he got to Tennessee in that first year going 7-6, that Purdue game. I mean, even though they lost that game, I mean, he was flinging it everywhere. And then 2022 with Hendon Hooker, and then it's tailed off a little bit. And there's any number of reasons why, and a lot of people have analyzed it. Was it Milton? He wasn't able to deliver. Was it Nico? Is it whatever the case may be? At his core, I think all of us would agree that Josh Heupel is a guy that wants to extend the field. He wants to push the ball down the field. You got to have a strong running game. You go back to Steve Spurrier's days, back in the fun and gun offense, they are also getting 200 yards on the ground a game. And that's what opened those lanes up for guys like Riddell Anthony and Ike Hilliard and so on. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that with Joey or with Jake, but I think it's going to be Joey, fellas.
Just feels like that would make sense. It feels like it would be easier to go from Aguilar to Merklinger than the other way around, as you said, Chris. Christopher Gabriel with KMJ Radio out of Fresno and the CG program joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Christopher, to your point about throwing the ball downfield, when you've got the receivers that Tennessee traditionally has, you've got to get the ball downfield, right? I mean, otherwise you're going to lose their interest. And in this day of transfer portal, you don't want to be running guys off necessarily.
Well, you're absolutely right, Mo. And I think we saw last year, who knows what the definitive reason was in the Mike Matthews camp about why he was going to leave. He's not sure and then he stays. But I think part of it was Josh Heupel wasn't getting him involved enough, at least from my standpoint. And then when he was in, if you're looking at a quarterback position in an offense like Josh Heupel, if you are waiting for the guy to have 5 yards separation, you may never get that. You have to have a guy who is willing to say, I'm flinging it up there and you need to go make a play. And that's what makes the great team successful. You watched Ohio State do that all night long in Columbus in the playoff, and you watch Texas do it a lot during the regular season. There's no reason why this offense with these receivers, why they can't do that. But yeah, if you want to, we're in an era now, and I've been hitting on this theme on my program of not only recruiting, but retention. You've got to recruit the guys and you have to retain the guys. And if you want to retain your best stars, you got to get them the darn football. And if you don't do that, they're going to go somewhere where they can do that. There's enough receivers on this team and there's enough balls to be thrown by Joey, Jake, or whomever to get it, make everybody happy. And I expect that we're going to see that earlier than later.
We had Ben McKee from Go Vols 24/7 on Friday.
Great writer.
Christopher, and great writer, great guest. We love it when Ben comes on with us. And you guys were almost in lockstep, particularly from the standpoint that your concerns are more on the offensive side of the ball, which I think is a little ironic, maybe for lack of a better phrase, given that Heupel is an offense first type guy, but also I think it's a great indicator of where this team is defensively, that you're not as concerned. It's not that you're not concerned, but you're not as concerned. You feel a little bit more comfortable with what's going on the defensive side of the ball. I think it just speaks to where they have come over Heupel's tenure there at UT.
And you really hit the key phrase there, Mo, and that is not as concerned. There's always going to be a level of concern, especially when you look at the schedule that the Vols are going to be playing. Of course, this year they go to Tuscaloosa. They go to Gainesville. I think Florida is already up in that game, 14-0. I mean, that's just kind of what goes on down there. But when Josh Heupel brought Tim Banks aboard, you looked at his numbers and what he did with defenses at Penn State, and you saw those numbers every year go down in the right direction. Less pass yards, less rushing yards, and so on. Tim Banks knows how to run a defense, and I know a lot of fans get impatient where suddenly one game you're going to give up 450 or 500 yards, but it's like my old buddy Orlando Steinauer, now the president of the Hamilton Tiger Cats and the former defensive coordinator of Fresno State, used to say when he was under Kalen DeBoer here, and I was getting on him because the Fresno State gave up like 700 yards and won the game. He goes, "Did we win the game?" And his point was well taken. We're going to have some games where we're going to give up a lot of yards. Never been yelled at that much by somebody, but boy, he yelled at me. You're going to give up some yards, but this team manages to bend more than they break. And I think that's why I'm not as concerned, because Tim Banks and that staff, they are solid. And I think that's something that Josh Heupel is given to him and saying, you know what, you do your thing. We feel good about that. You get us the ball. We're going to put points on the board. They need to do that better than they did last year, though.
And I feel like, Christopher, that the game has kind of evolved to that point that you can't be too bothered by winning the game 44-32 or something like that, because where offenses are, you're not going to get off the field every time. And it's almost got to be a bend but don't break type approach for 60 minutes. It's tough for old school guys like me and you to get used to. I mean, I watched the 56-55 high school state championship game a few years ago. A friend of mine was the defensive coordinator of the winning team. And, but I mean, you just have to get used to that.
What you just said. A couple of years ago, when I think it was his next to last year, they were playing in Oxford and they beat Ole Miss. I think it was something like 51-46 or 61-56. And he was interviewed after the game, and they said, "Coach, you gave up a lot of points, a lot of yards." He goes, "You know what? Football has changed. This game has changed from when I was at Michigan State. It has evolved." And he said, and I'm paraphrasing, if we need to score 60 points in the game to win, the bottom line is we need to win the game. And so, yeah, I mean, we grew up. I remember back in Phil Fulmer's days, we all remember this. Phil would get 10 points and say to Chavis, "All right, let's just hold that lead. If we're up 10-7, if we're up 14-10, that should be good enough." You're not going to win many games doing that now. Not at all. And that's why I like a guy like Josh Heupel. He understands that. And he basically says, we'll outscore you if we have to. Bottom line is, you got to put one in the, as John Wilkinson says, he said, hello win column. That's what we're looking for. Hello win column.
And however you get there.
However
you get there. Christopher Gabriel, biggest Tennessee fan west of the Mississippi, joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Again, SEC Media Days opened up today. Greg Sankey was first behind the podium. Addresses the SEC's first year as a super conference, according to SECsports.com. What are your feelings about, the way this game or this industry, for lack of a better phrase, has evolved administratively, Christopher? I mean, again, we're looking at the Power Four, and we're looking at possibly maybe 10 or 12 playoff spots going to your top 2 or 3 conferences and different things like that. I mean, where are we going with all of this, in your opinion?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that, because I have the perspective of being out here at Fresno, and the new Pac-12 is coming in 2026. And even though I'm a lifelong Tennessee fan, I'm an alum of USC, not the fake USC in Columbia, but the real USC in Los Angeles. Yeah, I said that. And, we can compare national championships between those two schools anytime you want. But I look at the Pac-12, and follow me here for a moment. If it wasn't for Larry Scott and then George Kliavkoff and then the presidents, they made one bad decision after another. That conference never should have folded the way it did. ESPN was giving him a deal of around 30 schools, around $30 million a year each. And ultimately, George Kliavkoff said, it's not enough. We're valuable. And it was a bad move. So now we're in the situation where we're at, and you have a West Coast, the 5 schools from the Mountain West going in: Fresno State, San Diego State, Utah State, Boise State, Colorado State. You have Gonzaga going in for basketball and the other sports. You have Oregon State and Washington State there. Now you have Texas State. These are all schools that have very good facilities, that have passionate fan bases and that care about the sport as much as anybody in the SEC. The problem is they don't have the power, any power at all. The power rests with, as we all know, the SEC and the Big Ten. Fellas, I have some concerns that as I love college football like you guys do, and I love Tennessee. I love the SEC and the Big Ten. Well, I don't love the Big Ten, but I love watching the Big Ten. But I don't want to see college football turn into two conferences. I don't want to see that. I want to see the San Diego States and the Boise States, and I want to see the UCFs and other schools in the mix for stuff. Part of the joy, the fun, the excitement of college basketball in March is that first Thursday and Friday when George Mason comes in, when Virginia Commonwealth comes in, when somebody like that comes in, when UMBC comes in and pulls a huge upset. We love that. And if we start to have this structure where it's the royalty and the serfs, and we basically remove everybody that's not a power conference school, I think that's to the detriment of college football overall. I'd like to think that the SEC and the Big Ten can help elevate everybody else. I've had Ann McCoy on my program. She's the athletic director at Washington State. She's coming back on in a couple of weeks. And when you listen to her, when you talk to her, you can hear how passionate she is and how much aggression she has in terms of wanting this conference to go in a direction that is still very much a part of the mix moving forward. And I think the Danny Whites of the world, I think they want that, but they're trying to figure out where to bridge that gap because obviously the finances are different, fellas. Fresno State a few days ago received what they're calling, what Garrett Classy, the athletic director of Fresno State, is calling a transformational gift. Well, it was $1 million. Last October, you want to talk transformational, Boise State received a gift of $25 million. And when you get to there's Fresno State's anything else. So I want to see this inclusive going forward. Maybe it's a long answer, but I want to see more inclusivity versus exclusivity.
So you're not buying necessarily the hype or what those two conferences in particular are selling that, hey, our 34 best teams, which inevitably will expand, whatever that number is, if we get to 48, these are the best 48 teams. I can maybe see an argument for akin to European soccer with the Champions League. Hey, these are the 32 best teams. Whatever metric you want to decide it, but if you're not in it, you're not in it. And there's like a tiny element of me that appreciates, okay, well now you're watching the quote-unquote best. But I kind of don't also hate that for everything that you just mentioned, Christopher. I mean, it is what makes college athletics in general, football obviously we're talking here, so unique and so special is you get the chance to see Fresno State take on Oklahoma. You get the chance, to see UAB take on Tennessee in Neyland Stadium. I mean, those type of opportunities is, to me, what still makes college athletics so special.
Yeah, I agree with you, Wade. And I mean, you can make the argument and fairly make the argument that in most years, the teams in the SEC and the Big Ten are going to be the vast majority of the best teams in the country in college football. But there is so much to be said, and forgive me if I'm sort of restating what you said, there's so much to be said for when the folks here at Fresno State, they went to Michigan last year. Michigan ended up winning by like 20 or 30, but that was a one-score game with 7 minutes to go. Mm-hmm. Fresno State opens at Kansas this year. You look at those early season matchups, and I'm tuning in because I want to see the team that is the underdog have a chance to take that other team to task. And I think that's part of the charm of the sport. I mean, if we go, you both cover a lot of high school. I've covered high school back in the Midwest and certainly out here, but especially in the Midwest, there's such joy in covering the hockey tournament, in high school hockey tournament in the state of Minnesota, when some little school of 500 students goes up against a bigger school and beats them in the state playoffs at the Xcel Energy Center where the Wild play. Those kinds of things need to keep happening in sports, and I think we all need to be engaged. And so I don't want to go down into a black hole or a rabbit hole here, but there's so much going on in our country right now that separates us one of the things that brings us back together is sports. Our love of sports, the way we converse about sports, that's one thing that unifies us. And if we continue down this divisive path, I think in college football, that's going to be one more thing that separates us. Bring the American Athletic Conference and the MAC and the Mountain West and the Pac-12 in 2026. Let's make sure that everybody is still engaged. They're not going to get as many teams, if any, into a playoff, but at least let's keep that engagement in play.
Christopher Gabriel of KMJ Radio out of Fresno, host of the CG program, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Again, day one of SEC Football Media Days. It will continue through Thursday, and we'll be listening. Christopher, we appreciate you spending some time with us this afternoon, and look forward to catching up with you surely between now and that Syracuse matchup in late August.
You know, I always appreciate the invite. Love coming on with both of you guys. The last couple of times we weren't able to connect with schedules, but whenever I am available, I am always ready to jump on with you boys.
We appreciate it.
Thank you, brother.
Anytime, man. Anytime.
All right. Hey, let's take a break here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we'll talk a little Lady VOLS softball. Stick around.
If you want the latest in weather conditions, be sure to tune in to our Busy Bee Plumbing Weather Report each weekday on Mornings on Main Street. Brought to you, of course, by Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating and Air Conditioning. We will keep you updated on the latest conditions outside, like severe weather, heat, snow, rain, and even hail.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
It's the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Over the weekend, Camp KARLYN took place out at Ridley Park here in Columbia. It was a 2-day softball instructional camp headlined by Lady VOLS pitcher KARLYN Pickens, along with a number of her teammates, including former Columbia Central High School standout Savia Morgan, also Forest High School graduate and now University of Tennessee graduate Laura Mueller, and a number of other members of that Lady VOLS team that advanced to the Final Four of the Women's College World Series earlier this year out in Oklahoma City. KARLYN, Savia, and Terry Holder, the owner and founder of the Lady VOLS Boost Her Club, were kind enough to sit down with me and give me a little time for a series of video interviews that took place over the weekend out at the park. And, you know, this was a really neat event. They had more than 400 kids out there over the 2 days, supposedly from as many as 20 different states. I do know I saw a lot of non-Tennessee license plates out in the parking lot over the 2 days. And it's just a neat deal. The Lady Vols Boost Her Club is kind of an NIL arm for women's athletics at the University of Tennessee, and it was just pretty cool. I mean, seeing that many kids being able to interact with some of the best college softball players in the country was pretty nice. And the fact that those parents, those families were willing to come some of the distances that they did to give their young ladies an opportunity to take part in something like that is really kind of cool.
Yeah, sounds like an epic event. Like you said, cashing in on obviously the Lady Vols fandom that still is there, but also, yeah, you're talking about some of the best in the biz, kind of showcasing and really kind of just giving back to local communities, which is also what it's kind of really all about, in my opinion.
Absolutely. So let's let you hear from, again, KARLYN Pickens, Savia Morgan, and Lady Vol Boost Her Club owner and founder, Terry Holder. So KARLYN Pickens, rising senior pitcher for the University of Tennessee, nice enough to spend some time with us here before Camp KARLYN gets started. 2-day affair out here at Ridley Park in Columbia. KARLYN, welcome to Columbia.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So tell me, have you all kind of been touring around a little bit with this, or how?
Yeah, so the camps have been kind of an ongoing thing. The Lady Vol Booster Club always hosts a softball camp in the summer. Last year we had Camp Kiki. This year it's Camp KARLYN. So we're just super excited to, being able to share softball with all the little girls out there in the middle of the state. So super excited.
Well, what's it like to have a camp named after you?
It's different, seeing your name everywhere, but I'm just excited. I know everybody's here to, learn about softball, meet all the girls. So I'm very much looking forward to it.
And obviously an opportunity to give back.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I would imagine that you probably went to something like this at some point
definitely.
In your formative years, and now to be the person that folks are watching.
Yep.
How cool is that?
It's very cool, and I hope that every girl that steps in here learns something, takes something away, even just makes a friend with somebody that's at the camp, and gets to meet their favorite player. So if we can do that, then we're doing the right thing. So
now that you've had a little time to kind of step back from this past season, what was this year like, team-wise, individually, that kind of thing?
Yeah, we had a great year, and we didn't end how we wanted to. We wanted to go all the way, but I think we accomplished a lot of great things. Saw some great things from everybody on the team. I think it sets us up next year for an even better season. So I'm really just excited for how this team is going to go moving forward, and I'm really proud of the team.
You said it didn't end the way you wanted it to, obviously.
Yeah.
But given the backdrop of Lady Vol softball over the last few years, there have been a couple of such seasons.
Yeah.
What do you feel like it takes to be the last team standing in Oklahoma City?
Yeah, I think we talk a lot about just like mental toughness. When you get into postseason, it can be a lot, and just keeping that end goal in mind with everything we're doing. At the beginning of the season, middle of the season, and end of the season, we're all working towards that same goal. So having that early on to guide us and to encourage us, I think is super important.
Having gotten as close as you got this year, how do you feel like that will motivate you guys going into next year and in the next season?
Yeah, I think it'll motivate us a lot, and I think experience is everything. Having a lot of girls on the team that have been in that stage and have played on the highest level of college softball, I think is super important to continue that role. So I think we're going to take what we learned this year and apply that, and just keep growing.
Great. Hometown hero Savia Morgan joining us here. Columbia Central 2024 graduate coming off a great freshman year with the University of Tennessee. Savia, what's it like going from being one of the girls taking part in one of these camps to helping facilitate Camp KARLYN this weekend?
I would definitely say it's just great, like coming back and seeing everyone and seeing how happy they are just to see me and my teammates as well. And I would say also teaching them, because as a student learning from athletes like myself and my teammates, just being an athlete and teaching them is just really big and important to me.
The Boost Her Club is putting this thing on. NIL is just something that you've kind of come into and kind of grown up with as far as a concept goes. But how big is it to be able to be involved with something like this for you?
Honestly, I love it. But it's not about the NIL. Honestly, it's just about teaching people that want to be like you like teaching the younger ones that want to play at the next level. So I wouldn't say it's much of the NIL perspective of it, but it's a perk. But just being able to come out here and from sun up to sundown, just playing with kids, teaching them the small things so they can fulfill their dreams in the long run.
What was this freshman season like for you? Obviously, y'all had a lot of success, didn't have as much success as you wanted to ultimately, but you were a big part of that.
Yeah, it was great, honestly, just knowing my job, knowing what I need to do in the games in order to help me and my teammates win. So just getting on base, scoring runs, and putting the ball in play was a big thing for me and for my game as well.
You know, going to the Women's College World Series as a freshman, I would imagine that kind of sets a tone for you from a career standpoint, right?
Yes, we're always trying to get better each year, so hopefully within the next few years we'll win one. But it was great just going out there and experiencing that for the first year, especially with it just being my first year in college, just knowing what we can be as a team and where we have the potential to be in the long run.
You know, and again, relative to what your expectations were going in there, getting in there and contributing the way you did, how big was that for you?
It was honestly great just seeing myself go from where I thought I was going to be, and then seeing myself once we started playing was amazing, because honestly from the beginning I knew what I had in the long run, but seeing myself starting to do it my freshman year and just playing and helping my team win rather than what I honestly thought I was going to do was great.
Awesome. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Terry Holder, owner and founder of the Lady Boost Her Club, joining us here. And Terry, welcome to Columbia.
Thank you. Thank you. Great being here.
How did you all wind up here?
Well, you know, the Lady Vols always play the Mid-State Classic down here. That's kind of a tradition down here. And so basically we were deciding that we were going to do, this is our third camp. Our first two camps were Camp Kiki, when we had Kiki Malloy here. And so this year we decided to pick up on Miss KARLYN, you know, since she does hold the world record for the fastest softball pitch across. So, but we actually were talking to Mac, and the city of Columbia was just so gracious when we came down here for our game during the season this year. And we had so many Lady Fall fans, it was just unbelievable. And so when we started thinking about Camp KARLYN, we thought, you know, let's take it out of Knoxville. And, you know, we actually have two players, Laura Mealer, who just graduated, and Savannah Morgan, who's on our team still, was a freshman this past year. So we thought, what if we talk to them and maybe go back to Columbia? And so one thing led to another. Coach Weekly and everybody up in Knoxville was like, I think it's a great idea, and so here we are.
Now, the two Camp Kikis that you had, were those both in Knoxville?
They were both in Knoxville, yes.
Okay. All right. Now, Riley's telling me that y'all are doing a similar event in Destin in a couple of weeks.
We are. We're actually going down to Destin. We have a corporate sponsor down there that's working with KARLYN Pickens down there, and we're doing another camp down there. It won't be to this magnitude. Probably will be about 100 kids down there. We're going to have close to 400 here tomorrow. And then tonight we're doing Chalk Talk with KARLYN Pickens and Aaron Newer, and we limited it to 50 kids tonight. So it's just more of for kids that are really interested in just pitching. Tomorrow is going to be a camp across the board. We've got so many different Lady Vols coming. We've got hitting, catching, we've got our outfielders here. We've got a little bit of everybody. We've got Boo Gibson here, All-American first baseman. And so we're super excited, and that's kind of how we put it out there, that tomorrow's camp is for any position that the girls play. And so they're going to be able to come and learn tomorrow from Lady Vols.
Obviously, the concept of the Boost Her Club in this world of NIL and everything else is really an important aspect of college athletics.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that basically 4 years ago I owned Orange Mountain Designs, which is a Lady Vol store, for 17 years. And at the time, one of my really good friends, Jeff Goodfriend, who owns Alumni Hall, had been talking to me about if I ever wanted to retire. Because I already retired from UPS. I know I don't look that old, but I've already went through a couple lifetimes here. And when I didn't see the female athletes getting the NIL deals like so many of the men were, I kind of did one of those Pat Summits. You know, what would Pat Summit want me to do? Because that's why I started doing Lady Vol gear and working, was to keep on the tradition and legacy of Pat Summit. And so I just decided it was time for me to sell the store and go a different direction. And so my first two softball athletes were Kiki Malloy and Ashley Rogers. And so my first year, when I started doing this 4 years ago, I had 4 athletes. And now we're into year 4, and I've got 72 that I'm working with. And,
across all sports?
Across all sports. We work with all 9 Lady Vol sports. We have athletes in each sport. Yes.
Got to feel pretty good about that.
I feel great about it. I feel great about it. And the great thing is, like, when I come down or I do events like this, Some of the ladies that are in here kind of talking behind us, they've been there for me. My friends come down here, they work. These are all huge Lady Vol fans. And on the fact that they want to see the Lady Vols succeed and keep that logo strong. I think we're one of the last D1 schools that have our own logo. And so, a big shout out to Danny White and Dante Plowman for keeping that a prominent thing at the University of Tennessee is our Lady Vol logo.
Because it's not been easy to keep that.
It has not been easy to keep that. We have worked hard, and but like I said, so many of the people who are down here helping us with this camp at the camp store, in the concession, it's all Lady Vol fans. These are not just employees to me. Anyone who's on our team is a Lady Vol fan, has season tickets, so we're all real passionate about what we do. It isn't about just, oh, let's come down here and, hold a camp. And we've done several things tonight with the City of Columbia. Big shout out to them. They just took all 16 of our athletes out to dinner tonight, and so we were able to go out and meet some of the folks who helped make this possible.
Talking to Riley a little bit ago, Riley West, former Lady Vol, who is working with the Booster Club now, she was telling me that you've got young ladies from all over the South coming here for this event. Just to be able to have that kind of draw for something like this, what does that say about A, softball at the University of Tennessee, and B, where we are in women's sports in 2025?
Agreed. I think the biggest sweatshirt out there right now is everyone watches women's sports. But here again, I go back to, the University of Tennessee. I mean, we are the everything school, but the thing I like about the administration there is that they put our women's sports in the forefront too. We are a great football program, basketball, baseball. We just won the national title last year, but this year, this is 2 times in 3 years that we've been to the Women's College World Series. And so softball is just continuing to grow as a sport across everywhere. But yes, we have people flying in from Yukon. I love it up there. We got the, Yukon people flying down, New Jersey, Florida. We've got folks driving all the way from KARLYN Pickens' hometown of Weaverville. So you're right. And then, of course, the folks in Columbia have just embraced us. Like I said, we're going to have a full slate tomorrow of a lot of young ladies here who are excited to learn some skills.
Great. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today. Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
July 14th, 1997. So apparently Ryan Klesko liked hitting on July 14th. A year after clubbing a pair of homers and driving in 6 runs in a 15-10 Atlanta win over visiting Florida, Klesko clouded the second of 2 grand slams in back-to-back innings to put the Braves ahead for good in an eventual 10-6 win against visiting Philadelphia. Tim Spear got the offense rolling with his 5th inning bomb into the right field seats to score Michael Tucker, Chipper Jones, and Fred McGriff. Tim Spear got the offense rolling with his 5th inning bomb that cut the host 6-1 deficit to a single before Klesko pulled a shot into the right field seats to score Tucker, Chipper Jones, and Fred McGriff in the 6th. Klesko added a base hit in the 8th for his 5th RBI of the game. That was this day in Braves history. 2 grand slams in 2 straight innings. Braves could have used that kind of power over the weekend. Didn't quite get it, but they hit 13 home runs in 6 road games here over this trip to West Sacramento and St. Louis. Wound up getting a split of those 6 games with yesterday's 5-4 rain-delayed loss at St. Louis. Braves took the first 2 games of that series, as we mentioned during the rundown, 6-5 on Friday, 7-6 on Saturday. Couldn't quite pull it out yesterday. So they go into the All-Star break 11 games under 500 at 42-53. St. Louis improves to 51-46 with that win. Sonny Gray doing some good work early for the Cardinals before the initial rains came. And, the Braves bullpen was taxed, but for the most part answered the call throughout this road trip. Just got to find some more consistent offense. So again, the break is here, and I'm not sure anybody needed it more than the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, a chance to really officially, there's been so much speculation in the last 10 days or so about what's the next move. A chance to really kind of officially, front office wise, take a deep breath and decide what is your next move or what are your potential next steps. Is there action to be had? Certainly not taking action is a strategy, but yeah, it does feel like they, of all teams, are glad to be here at this break.
You're hearing roster moves. You're hearing Ozuna maybe available, maybe Sean Murphy, maybe Raziel Iglesias. There have been talk about, or there has been talk. I don't know how. Not sure how much the people that matter are talking about it, but speculation as to whether Michael Harris II gets sent down to just kind of work on his swing and get a breath of fresh air. I don't know. So you just feel like, and we've talked about it almost ad nauseum. You feel like this team has got too much talent to not be any better than they are. So we'll see how it goes. News came out late last week that, I had kind of expected really since Ronald Acuna Jr. got scratched from that first game on the road out at West Sacramento with back tightness. Acuna has pulled out of the home run derby, has been replaced by teammate Matt Olson. So Olson, who attended the last All-Star game in Atlanta as an Atlanta native at Turner Field, will be hitting in the home run derby and will be playing in the All-Star game as a member of the National League All-Star team. So that's pretty cool. You hate for Ronald to miss this, but at the same time, with his health history, I guess, there's no sense in tempting fate by him going out and putting forth the effort that he's going to put forth in a showcase event like the home run derby in his home park, and it may be going the wrong way at some point as a result. So, not necessarily cooler heads prevailing, but probably the best long-term decision for Acuna from a health standpoint to not participate in this. And you hate to miss him, but it just feels like the right decision.
Well, and you probably didn't have to twist Olson's arm too hard to get him to hop up and join, right?
No, I don't think you did, and it'll be fun. He might make this thing worth tuning into tonight because if he gets on a roll with that swing and the chop house, it could get electric real quick. So kind of looking forward to seeing how that goes, what the first round matchups are in this, and just how well he does tonight. Tough weekend for Houston. Falling to the Rangers 7-3 on Friday, picking up a win Saturday 7-4, and then dropping the rubber game yesterday 5-1. Again, still 16 games over 500 are the Astros at 56-40. Texas pulls to within a game of 500 going into the break at 48-49. But Houston would have liked a better result than just getting one of those three at home against the in-state and AL West rival.
Yeah, tough break for Houston, really kind of limping into considering the heater that they had been on into the break. And, man, I mean, you can't say they didn't at least try, though. They celebrated 7-1-3 day yesterday down there in H-Town, and they brought out the big guns. They had Mike Jones, and they had the Cadillac on candy paint, rolling around. Yeah, I mean, still tipping, blasting at high levels. Wasn't enough to get them the win, though. And for a team on the opposite kind of end of Atlanta, maybe overachieving what they have done thus far, they kind of need this break as well, just to kind of get a recalibrate on really who's available, because there's been so many injuries and so many moving parts. It's kind of been a real miracle that they've achieved what they have achieved thus far. So be interesting. Would have been nice to get one for Paul Wall and the crew yesterday, but wasn't meant to be.
I was going to ask you if Paul Wall was on hand.
I didn't see him. Mike Jones threw out the first pitch. Not the greatest first pitch you've ever seen, but I mean, it was serviceable. And they paid homage to DJ Screw, and did a lot of great things yesterday. Like I said, they can't fault them for trying on that unofficial holiday down there in H-Town, but wasn't meant to be. And yeah, I'm kind of curious to see the next week or two out of this break, kind of their next set of puzzle pieces and kind of how they move things around, because they if they are going to make a real run, or at least attempt to make a real run, there's going to need to be some relief that kind of comes in via trade, it feels like.
That's kind of cool that they did that, in terms of the Mike Jones tribute, that kind of thing.
It's kind of like when the Grizz, they bring out Al Capone and 3-6 Mafia on 901 Day every year. But this was neat because they're actually in season. The Grizz were never in season around that time. So kind of neat. Mike Jones had he's got some money still, of course, because he had the Apple Air Maxes, which I don't know is a little bit of a wild move to try and throw a first pitch with headphones, let alone some expensive ones like that. But I guess that's why he's in a different realm than I am. But was neat. But yeah, they tried to pull out the big guns and salvage a win to close the series out, but was not meant to be. Kind of a tough break.
That's unfortunate. When we had John Parado from Pittsburgh Baseball Now on last week, we talked about whether or not Paul Skeens would get the start for the National League. Well, it turns out he is, despite his 4-8 record. But, that may not be the biggest story for tomorrow night's Midsummer Classic, because rookie and former Nashville Sound, as in Nashville Sound about a month, 6 weeks ago, Jacob Mizorowski has been named to the National League All-Star roster, and it has not gone without its share of controversy. Mizorowski has made, 5 starts at the major league level, has thrown 25 innings, I believe. But he began his career with 11 straight no-hit innings, and he's an all-star. Not everybody happy about it. The Philadelphia Phillies in particular seem to be bothered by it. Felt like they had a couple of pitchers that were worthy of consideration ahead of the 6'7" rookie. So, and I know it's, certainly it feels kind of odd. Again, he's 4-1, and that velo is going to play for a long time. But 5 starts at the major league level earns you an all-star appearance.
I asked you about that last week. I said, do we get this guy in? And I was kind of joking at the time, but I mean, I was a little serious. and then he gets in. I mean, I could make obviously the argument for, I could make, especially Suarez on the Phillies feels like he's the guy that kind of maybe has a gripe with not getting in. Although something to be said, because it sounds like the Diamondbacks are a little perturbed that their Suarez was not invited into the home run derby. So this is 2025 in a nutshell. We got some folks that are happy and some folks that are complaining about a glorified exhibition. So, I mean, it kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah, I think, well, it's funny because, they call it a glorified exhibition, that kind of thing, but everybody wants to be in it until they're not, it sounds like. So, I don't know.
That's why we got to go back to home field advantage. That's why we got to go back to home field advantage. So then really everybody is trying their best, and we want to put the best in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Ranger Suarez, 7-3 with a 194 earned run average, which is the lowest of any pitcher in the National League with 80 innings or more. He's got 83 2/3 innings in. Again, they also felt like Christopher Sanchez was deserving of consideration in addition to Suarez. Sanchez is 7-2 with a 2.59 ERA. But Trey Turner and Nick Castellanos really kind of outspoken in their opposition to this. And somebody pointed out, if you've got an issue with the selection, that's one thing. But I mean, don't blame the kid. Mizorowski's 4-1 with a 2.83 ERA. He's got 33 strikeouts in 25 2/3 innings. And again, 89 pitches in those 5 starts that have been triple digits on the radar guns. So has Major League Baseball lost its way in terms of maybe sacrificing some things for, marketability? Probably. I mean, it's not the first misstep that Major League Baseball has made. Now, I'm not saying that they don't have anything to complain about. I'm not saying Mizorowski deserves to be in the All-Star game, but it is Major League Baseball. I just don't feel like he's been up there long enough. I feel like there are other guys. I'll be honest with you. I would not have been shocked if Acuna had not made the team. I mean, having not played any more than he's played this season. He's been fantastic, but I wouldn't have been shocked if he hadn't made the team. I'd have probably been pissed if he hadn't made the team, but I wouldn't have been shocked if he hadn't made the team. But, I mean, 5 starts in your rookie year, I think it's different if he breaks spring training with the big club and has done this from the start. But 5 starts, I mean, he came up mid-June, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know. I don't know that that's long enough. And certainly they had to know that if nothing else, folks were going to object to this. So,
I mean, he shattered. We talked about it with Skeens last year. He had 11 starts at the time, which was the record then. So Mizorowski has kind of shattered that mark. And I mean, I kind of get it. It all comes back to, MLB's at a crossroads, right? Because Trey Turner's comments are not totally off here when he says, it's not even about the players and their ability. It's about whoever sells the most tickets and has been put on social media the most. But MLB kind of needs that because we're talking about a sport that now more than ever kind of needs to tap into that and needs to kind of continue its next steps in terms of its evolution, or else we're talking about a real kind of bygone era there. So it's kind of a tricky deal, yet again, for the execs at the MLB office.
Yeah, it really is because, I mean, you're not wrong in terms of them needing that type injection of youth and energy and that kind of thing to maybe raise their visibility. But, at what cost, I guess, becomes the question, because does this kind of impact your credibility when these are you all-stars, I don't know. It's I 5 starts, man. I mean, there's a lot of time for this thing to go south. His second time through the league, that kind of thing. When folks, major league hitters can hit anybody's velo, I think. So I don't know. I just think it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on past the All-Star game, just to see how he continues to do. But Jacob Mizorowski is a National League All-Star, and congratulations to him. You know, draft started yesterday. They got through 3 rounds. Over those 3 rounds, 8 UT players were selected. We talked to Ben McKee from Go Vols 24/7 on Friday, and pretty much names that he mentioned pretty well went off the board. So most of those guys that have actually been in Knoxville will probably not be back. And they had a couple of high school guys that went in the first round that probably won't get to Knoxville either. So we'll be keeping up with day 2 here as that progresses today. And we'll talk more about that tomorrow. We mentioned in the rundown, Durham defeated Nashville 4-3 in Sunday's finale of that 6-game series over there in International League play. But Daz Cameron has definitely made his presence felt since he returned to the Sounds from Milwaukee. Played in 4 games in that series, went 7 for 15 with 2 home runs, including a grand slam in Saturday's 13-1 victory. So he's been nice at the top of the order for the Sounds since he got back. They will resume play after the All-Star break at First Horizon Park on Friday. They've got a 3-game series against visiting Indianapolis, the Pirates farm team. So that'll do it for baseball for now. Here on the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we'll be talking local basketball with Main Street Media's Joe Sullivan. Stick around.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
And warm-up continues. The weekend wrap-up continues here on Main Street Sports Today. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Joining us now is our colleague from Main Street Media. He covers local basketball. It's Joe Sullivan. And before we get to basketball, Mr. Sullivan advised us that he's got a thought regarding the All-Star game. First off, Joe, thanks for joining us. Second,
Mo, you're breaking up on me. It's hard. I can't hear you. I only hear every other word. Is that my problem or your problem?
it's probably my problem, but
Now I hear you.
We
Now I
got
hear you
you.
very, very well. Yes, I hear you very well.
good.
So did
You had a thought regarding the All-Star game. Share it.
Yeah. So someone asked me yesterday, had I ever covered an All-Star game? And the answer is yes. The years were, I covered two, 1976 and 1977. Ooh. And that's when the teams played to win. And it was in Philadelphia and then in New York. And so wouldn't you want to get back to that in some fashion? I don't know if All-Star games in general can be saved. I think they've been ruined when they're not played competitively. But I do think that they can start with taking away the fact that every team has to have a representative. That would be a really good step forward for All-Star games in baseball. And Wade, I thought it was a good idea when I thought the winner got home field advantage in a World Series.
It was kind of a joke at the time, but I mean, there is something to be said for adding a little extra oomph to it. The thought of an exhibition game in the middle of July kind of determining a team that might have won 100 games versus a team that snuck in the playoffs, postseason with 80 wins, determining home field feels a little weird, but there's something I don't know. I kind of like it now.
Yeah,
I like the idea. Maybe I'm just getting old myself and just reminiscing on fonder times. It's better than a tie, obviously, the year it's kind of instituted that after.
When they ran out of pitchers, that was the worst. It is so the other thing to talk about with what you guys saw was Mizorowski. Like, who would you want to see? And I think a lot of people would like to see him. And I saw him recently in person. I had a rendezvous with old high school friends, and we were in Minneapolis. I'm not from Minneapolis; I'm from New Jersey, but we went there because we haven't been there. So he pitched against the Twins, and he no-hit them for 6 innings before giving up a homer. His first it was a homer, and then they took him out. But he is something to see. He can really, as you noted, throws it very hard, but also has a great breaking ball. So that's sort of the debate. He has not earned it. He doesn't belong in an All-Star game. We can all agree on that. But boy, don't you want to see him pitch against good players, right?
Mm-hmm. So, and that's the crux of the situation. I mean, how do you reconcile doesn't deserve it, want to see him? You can't necessarily have both.
And I had a good time in Minneapolis. I had my Harmon Killebrew root beer when I was in the stands there. So, and they have statues for everybody outside that stadium. Joe Mauer already has a statue. Wasn't he just playing last year? That's got to be the quickest statue ever.
Feels like it.
I've driven past it. Looks nice from the outside. What kind of yard is it?
So it actually, it's beautiful inside with great sight lines, and it's because it's small, but it has no grand entry. It's like you come off the street up these steps and then you're in the stadium. It's surrounded by parking garages, so it doesn't have any great eye appeal, I thought, from the outside. But inside, it's a great place to watch a game.
Here we go. Joe Sullivan. We wanted to as we get back to local basketball, we've had some time for the smoke to clear, over on Jefferson Street and down on 12th Avenue South, I guess. What are your thoughts first with regards to the situation at Tennessee State with Penny Collins leaving to join the coaching staff with the Memphis Grizzlies? And from what you understand, how are they dealing with the aftermath of that departure?
So it's such an odd time of year for that change to happen, and it really leaves Tennessee State, Mickey Allen at the athletic director in a terrible position. I would hope he would just make Eric Buggs the coach for the season. I don't see anything to gain by trying to hire from the outside at this point with everyone engaged. You should wait a year, see how Buggs does, and then go from there. That would be my opinion on that. Now, the Penny thing is the other strange things about it. The Grizzlies haven't officially announced it. It's you can't. He's not even on their website yet. But I do understand he's in player development. He's with the summer league team, so he's already working. So I guess from Penny's perspective, how can you turn down a chance to get to the NBA? And I think also leaving Tennessee State, almost looking for an escape route because of the budget problems at that school, which we've talked about on here about how even the band gets affected by the budget cuts there, and the future of that school is going to be predicated on how much it's financed. I mean, it's a rough situation over there, and that inevitably would affect the athletic department and Penny and the new football coach. So it is he's out, and so when Lipscomb's coach Lenny Acuff went to Sanford, I did a story for our site about what the possible replacements were. Who could they be? And I mentioned Penny as a possible replacement for the same reason that I'm talking about now, that I thought he would look for an out from Tennessee State. And being head coach at Lipscomb, he wouldn't have to move. And he had a program that you could win at. So it makes sense that to me that he left. Meanwhile, at least Tennessee State in a really tough spot. And the team. Interrupt me, Mo. I'm sorry, I'm babbling.
No, you're fine.
So the team, he had some people coming back that he has. He had. I'm looking at this. 3 good starters coming back, and Nkrumah, Joe Sullivan, personal favorite as his guard, one of his guards. But he also has Khalil London, who was a transfer from Charleston, who tore his ACL in the preseason last year, and I know Penny loves him. So he has him. He's now healthy and ready to play. A kid who's going to be a sophomore from Canada named J.C. Brooks played a little bit. I think he has a lot of potential. So there's some pieces there at Tennessee State. And so maybe, something can still come out of this season. But obviously, the transition is going to be difficult.
I think it speaks to, Joe, to your point a moment ago, the timing makes it really difficult to try and woo somebody of any real caliber to come in. There's kind of maybe something to be said for keeping bugs around, if nothing else, for keeping everybody kind of stable in terms of your roster, which presumably that's going to give you your best chance to at least keep a remotely competitive program for next season, at least I would imagine, right?
So I do think the transfer portal is closed, except certain situations it's still open, and I believe a coaching change is one of them. I believe these, there could be people going into the portal because of the coaching change. Would that be horrible? So,
yeah, I mean that's the trickle down effect that's the trickle down effect that I'm kind of worried about if I'm TSU, is if you don't kind of keep that staff as closely in conjunction as you were previously, then some key piece here or there could go, and now all of a sudden you're dealing with player fallout as well.
Exactly. So I think hey, Mickey, listen to us. Just keep bugs on the job and do the best you can with this roster.
Listen to you. Joe Sullivan joining us here on Main Street.
Hey, Mickey has a sense of humor. He would laugh at that.
Okay, good. Joe Sullivan from Main Street Media joining us on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Joe, what is the impact of Sean Rutigliano leaving Belmont as associate head men's basketball coach to take over the program at D3 Colby in Maine?
Colby, yes, Colby, which is like it's an academic school more than anything else, but they play in a league, the New England. These schools that a lot of people call it the Little Ivy, because all these schools are very academically oriented, but yet highly competitive. Division III basketball, all sports, highly competitive. Probably that league's best known for the Williams-Amherst football game, which has been played. Is a great traditional game, and it's been televised on ESPN.
Hey, Joe, is Colby the Cheese?
Their nickname?
Yeah, is it the Cheese?
The Cheese? I felt that's a good one, though. Or the cheese heads.
Anyway.
You want to just make them the cheese heads?
No, that's Wisconsin.
Hey, and you mentioned Joe. You mentioned Williams too. That's the previous stop for my boy, famous Michigan and now NBA alum Duncan Robinson back in the day.
That's where he started. Absolutely, yeah.
And we kind of teased this on the show though last week, Joe. What is exactly in the water in those D3 programs in the Northeast that kind of yields either highly coveted transfers, guys that can go on to the NBA, or more so even, it seems like a great kind of fertile ground for head coaches at bigger programs and even into the NBA?
So I think in terms of the players, look, it's an appealing academic school. So if you're an academically oriented athlete, these are great schools to go to. You're going to get a great education. That's the appeal. And you're going to most likely, they have no scholarships at D3, but if you qualify by need, it's a great opportunity. And I think that's where the appeal comes from for the players. From the coaches, this is a league that people stay at for a long time. So this is Sean will be only the third coach at Colby since 1970. These people stay at that job a long time, so it's a comfortable place where people enjoy their position. So that, I think, is the appeal of it. I think if you like coaching smart players too, that's what you're going to get in this league as well. Now, what Belmont's going to lose is he's one of their key recruiters. It's close to a lot of these players, and Casey has to find someone who can replace him, who can help him go get better players for Belmont to compete in the Missouri Valley. And so Casey told me no hurry to replace this. Similar time of year that we're talking about with Tennessee State. So he's not in a hurry, he said, to fill this spot. But with that said, he'll announce it tomorrow.
All right. Yeah, that's typically the way that works. But no, to your point, you don't want to rush it. You want to be sure you get the right person if it's somebody as pivotal as Rutigliano has been to what they've done over the past 6 seasons. So, and
he was also a part of Casey's staff at Lipscomb when they had those teams that went to the NCAAs and the NIT final. So he was involved with Casey at that. So he's been with him a long time, and he was a key component. And it's you don't often see this where a guy's you see people try to move up at a level, but he must have liked what he saw and heard at Colby, and that if history proves to be correct, he'll probably be at Colby until the end of his career, quite honestly. But he's got it. It's in Maine.
Mm-hmm.
I hope Sean's
and it's really cold up there. But he's from up there originally, though, right?
Yeah.
Upstate New York.
So he knows all about this. Yeah. So
he's not
good for him.
Anything new. Yeah, absolutely. Joe, you mentioned Lenny Acuff taking the Sanford job as part of the dominoes that started falling from Maryland and spanned pretty much the entire eastern half of the U.S. But what's your feel for Kevin Carroll at Lipscomb to this point?
So I think the group that he has retained coming back is not going to be one that's going to be that would not carry him to a very good season. In what I feel is an underrated Atlantic Sun for a low major league. So it's going to be the new players that are going to have to come through for him. And he's filled his roster up. And so the interesting players he has coming in, he brought over his point guard from Trevecca, Mateo Esmeraldo. So he's going up from D2 to D1. Let's see if he can make that adjustment. I have heard good things about a freshman coming in, Kennedy Okpara, whose brother Felix starts at Tennessee. This is Felix's little brother. Not as big as Felix, about 6'7".
Mm-hmm.
I hear and possibly his key recruit. Have you guys noticed? You probably don't follow it like I do. All these recent sort of commitments at this time of year for college basketball have been international players. A lot of international players. It seems like a trend, and I know, for example, Purdue. I just saw the highlights earlier today. Purdue has a guard coming from Israel who looks sensational for them. And it continues. A lot of international players. who possibly might not have been eligible in past years because they were being paid money by pro teams in Europe that no longer is a disqualifier in the United States. So Lipscomb has their international player coming in. This is a guard from Israel. He's going to be a 22-year-old freshman. So he's old, and I'm sure I'm going to butcher this name, but it's Or Ashkenzai. So his first name is O-R, and it's spelled Ashkenzai. Wade, you want to take a crack at that?
You nailed it, Joe.
Waving the white flag is Wade over there. So yeah.
So I think he's going to be a key player for him. He's an older player, and so we should expect him to have an important role. And then the other guy to mention is this transfer from Lubbock Christian, Ethan Duncan. So this kid is a scorer. He scores a lot. He's a 40% shooter. He's 6 feet tall, and he's a shooting guard. So that may not matter in the Atlantic Sun, though. I would expect he's got to be someone who's going to score a lot of points for them this year. And the returning players, I mean, one name to keep on Kellen Boylan was a transfer from Air Force for Lenny. And Lenny was very high in him, about 6'7", but he had a shoulder injury. And he came back as quick as he could, trying to play last year with it being a special season. He wanted to be part of a possible NCAA team. He was never really in the groove at all the whole season. He said his shoulder was 100%, but you could just see it just wasn't happening for him last year. There is some raw talent there. So there's a player that could surprise people this year for them too.
Okay. All right. What else you got your eyes on here over the summer, Mr. Sullivan?
Well, as Wade knows, I'm looking at Saratoga mostly, but because you surprised me by asking me, I'm so grateful to be on your show. I did prepare. So last year with Vanderbilt, we talked frequently about their lack of size, and it started in preseason. This team's not big enough, and we felt it affected them in SEC play. So Mark Byington just recently in a story by young Joey Dwyer, who we make this transactional announcement. He's now writing for SI.com covering Vanderbilt, and new job for Joey. And he wrote a story where Byington said just that: we need to get bigger. Even though he kind of deflected it last year, probably he knew too that he had to get bigger. So he has, Jalen Washington, who's 6'10", from North Carolina coming in. That'll be his starting center. And then they have a guy from Jacksonville State. We need to call Chris Yao, the former co-host of the show, to see if he can give us the real scouting report on this guy. But he's 6'9", 307.
Cool. Now Washington and this guy were high school teammates, apparently.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Is that right? Wow. Yeah.
They're both from Gary, Indiana.
Yeah. So, I mean, I saw Jacksonville State play. I'm not sure this guy is going to help them in the SEC. But he's the backup. I mean, Washington's the guy that's going to have to be.
He's got 5 fouls.
Yeah, he can. And I guess he's not going to get pushed around at 307.
There you go.
And then he's look. They have some really good returning players, Vanderbilt too, in this era where people leave. But Byington said that Tyler Nichols is at all. He's the 6'6" guard, terrific shooter. Byington saying in Joey's story that he thinks he could be an all SEC player. And a personal favorite of mine, Nkrumah is not my only favorite. Devin McLaughlin, the 6'6" forward. We played a lot of center for them last year. I think he could have a great year now that he's not going to have to play center. And then Tyler Tanner, the little guard, I think could have a great year. He had a good freshman year coming off the bench. So the other key player for them is Frankie Collins, is a guard transfer from TCU. He's going to be sort of the scoring out of the backcourt. So we'll see. They're bigger. I don't want to come out and advertise this is going to be a great team in the SEC yet, but Byington's a guy who is not going to sit still. He rebuilt the roster again, and he has some good key people coming back.
And he won't be announcing his starters as 5-point guards this time around, then, right?
He's got it. Yes, that's what he did last year. So we can honestly say that Mason Nicholson at 307 will not be a starting point guard.
Not your starting point guard.
There we go. Joe, we appreciate you taking some time with us, especially unexpectedly. What's other than Saratoga? What else you got going on? Where's your next big trip?
Ellis Park,
Minneapolis.
I was just say Ellis Park. No. My next big trip. I have nothing planned. I have a personal trip with my wife in September. I'm going to France, and I'm as I always try to do. I try to fit in something sports. It's been difficult. It's more important to see the Eiffel Tower and Normandy. The D-Day beaches. I realize that than a soccer game or something else. But I discovered something that may sound ignorant to people who are aware of France. But in Paris, all the sporting facilities are in the same place. They're in this huge park. I'm not going to try to say the park's name because I can't speak French. But it's a gigantic. It's like the Central Park of Paris, but bigger, a lot bigger than Central Park. And within the confines of this park are 2 racetracks, the Roland Garros Stadium where they play the French Open, 2 stadiums, one for rugby and one for soccer, where Paris Saint-Germain plays. It's not enough. I think that's enough. I think I've said it all. I mean, can you imagine that these are all within a few miles of each other, all these facilities? So I guess that might be my sporting aspect of my trip to France. I might go over and just see all these sporting facilities in one place.
Sounds like great planning on somebody's part. Joe, as always, we appreciate it. I'm glad we were able to check in with you, and glad all is well. Hopefully we'll talk to you before you go to Paris, but we'll be thinking about you if we don't. So,
well, always a pleasure to be on. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks. Let's take a break, our final break of the day here on the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we'll wrap up the weekend. Stick around.
Being in Tennessee, we wanted to try to keep it as local as possible, so we have an entire section of our menu that is just dedicated to local whiskeys like Uncle Nearest, Jack Daniels, of course, George Dickel, Nelson Brothers, Greenbrier whiskey, and all of our taps are all local. From 2 o'clock until midnight, we've got food every day for you guys. A good handful of appetizers, some entrees, and a couple salads and things like that. My name is Ethan Kanata. Please come down and see us at the Pick Lobby Bar here at the Omni in Nashville.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
There's a line that links us all. Most of the time, we don't even think about it, but it's everywhere. Illuminating our neighborhoods, empowering our businesses, and helping us to recharge. Whether it comes from our grids, the sun, or a kind heart, we believe in the power of good energy. And as your family and region continue to grow, you can trust that we'll always be there for you. Middle Tennessee Electric, bringing good energy.
It's the final segment of the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. And as we mentioned in the rundown, Amanda Anisimova, kind of a dubious performance in the women's single finals at Wimbledon on Saturday morning, getting bageled by Swiatek 6-0. 6-0 in the finals. Man, that's tough.
Yeah, the old double goose egg. Not a great performance, to say the least. And man, we were all rooting for her, not just, for kind of a sense of American winning the title, but also obviously everything that she had kind of battled through. This was an athlete that had taken, as Bill Reel had told us, taken 7-8 months off, kind of getting her mental health sorted out. And this time last year, she was ranked in the hundreds in the world and missed the main draw in terms of qualification. So it would have been a truly kind of remarkable comeback and kind of real fairy tale ending for her, but it wasn't meant to be. And really, unfortunately, not a great showing on Saturday. Never really in it from the start. But on the other hand, Swiatek gets her first Wimbledon championship. Now just missing the Australian Open to kind of complete the career Grand Slam. Made the championship or the final match earlier this year, but couldn't get it done. So her eyes and her goals, presumably, they'll be fixated on the U.S. Open, which she won back in 22. But she's already thinking about how can she tweak and improve her game to bring it home in Melbourne next January.
Meanwhile, Jannik Sinner comes back from a 6-4 loss in the opener to close out Carlos Alcaraz 6-4, 6-4, 6-4 to win his first Wimbledon men's singles championship.
Yeah, not quite the drama that we got. Man, it looked for a moment in that second set, after Alcaraz comes out and takes the first and Sinner rallies back. Sinner was hitting some shots. He kind of did this during his match versus Djokovic, and like I said, it was almost Old Yeller status for Djokovic in that semifinal there. But Sinner was hitting some just amazing shots, kind of just peppering his opponent and putting them really in a difficult situation. He did more of the same beginning in that second set versus Alcaraz. And it wasn't quite like the epic French Open final that we got. But really, in a way, it kind of sets up now, the perfect kind of grudge match if those two were to meet possibly in the championship of the U.S. Open here in a couple months. So not quite the same drama that we got at Roland Garros, but a win nonetheless. We've talked about Sinner, obviously, winning his quarterfinal match despite trailing 2-0 after Dimitrov had to retire due to injury. He just took out Djokovic in the semifinals, clearly a wounded and hobbled Djokovic. But he does. I'll give him his credit. He does beat Alcaraz, rallying after that first set drop. So hopefully setting up what should be a fun U.S. Open if those two meet at any point, but hoping obviously it would be in a final.
Yeah. Are these two the two best in the game at this point?
You can certainly make that argument. And, Sinner obviously comes with no shortage of baggage, PED performances and bans kind of in his history. So, he's not a squeaky clean individual, but, man, he is really talented. Alcaraz is still another 1 or 2 years. We kind of have him in this sweet, adorable, baby-faced assassin type mode before he can really kind of turn into the full-blown killer that we think he will eventually become. But yeah, it should be theirs based on the last two majors or Grand Slams that we've seen. It should be those two meeting yet again. The draw will kind of dictate where they sit, but it should be heading that direction. There's obviously some U.S. consideration there at play on home soil, but should be fun in a couple weeks.
I love it when we get it right. We had Heather Williams, our NASCAR analyst, on midweek last week, as we typically do, talking about Shane Van Gisbergen. I want to throw an extra in there. Shane Van Gisbergen and his Xfinity Cup Series sweep at Chicago on the road course up there, and they were going out to Sonoma and kind of conjecturing about whether or not he could go back to back. Well, he finished second in the Xfinity Series race on Saturday, but he did get the win in the Cup Series. So consecutive Cup wins for SVG on road courses. And again, it's kind of cool. It's his third win of the year and his second in as many weeks in the Cup Series. Awesome performance, obviously.
Great performance. It was cool. And, we didn't exactly go out on a limb by rolling with this guy. But, anything can happen in a race. But, yeah, this dude, he led something crazy, led over 80% of the laps, the last I remember seeing. He was a heavy favorite betting-wise to win the race. But, like I said, anything can kind of happen. And it's not as if everybody else, it's not as if he is the absolute best, it seems, on these types of races and these types of courses. But it's not as if to say that nobody else doesn't have a shot. So it was neat in that sense to see him go out and, like you said, go back to back as well.
It was his fourth win in in 34 starts. He becomes the quickest NASCAR driver to win 4 races at the top level since Parnelli Jones won his fourth in 1967 in his 31st start. So you got to go back nearly 60 years to find someone as quick to 4 Cup Series victories as Shane Van Gisbergen. That's impressive.
He's been dominant, and it will be interesting to see now. Does he immediately kind of just fall by the wayside, getting the 2 wins, kind of holding serve, if you will, on his kind of specialty tracks and layouts is nice. But I'm kind of curious to see kind of what he does maybe now for an encore. And we still saw if your bracket is somehow it was ripped to shreds after the first week. But if you've been riding the Ty Dillon bandwagon, you still got some rooting interest for the 32 seed who's now on to the semifinals.
It is Ty Dillon and John Hunter Nemechek in one semifinal. It's Tyler Reddick and Ty Gibbs in the other semifinal that will obviously be decided next weekend at Dover. But again, SVG wins the Cup Series at Sonoma. Chase Briscoe, Chase Elliott, Michael McDowell, and Christopher Bell are your next 4 finishers there. Tyler Reddick, Ty Gibbs finished 6th and 7th. Josh Berry finishing 13th, followed by Daniel Suarez. And apparently Berry and Carson Hocevar got together in a not good way at Sonoma. A little crash bang action sounds like. Berry got into him in turn 2, sent him on a spin. Hocevar finishes 32nd. Again, Berry from Hendersonville finished in 13th. And it's apparently there's if there wasn't bad blood, it sounds like maybe there is now between those two. So stay tuned at Dover for that one.
Yeah, I'm here for that.
We mentioned again Chris Gotterup during Friday's show coming out of the opening round of the Scottish Open. Well, he finished things off at the top of the leaderboard, winning that event. So big weekend performance for him.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if he would have the goods. Rory was making a pretty strong effort, it looked like, up the leaderboards through the action on Saturday. But props to him, kind of the warm-up for the British Open. Rory ends up finishing in a tie for second, but props to Gotterup, an American golfer, going over, playing a little link style, getting the win. I mean, this top 10 is pretty stacked with international or European golfers, I should say. Rory obviously being kind of one of the main notables there. Justin Rose had a great round on Sunday to kind of fly up the leaderboard as well, shooting a blistering 63. So props to him for kind of fending off some big dogs. And you still had Xander and Scotty kind of lurking in the mix in that top 10 as well. So maybe Gotterup with a little mojo now, getting ready for the British Open coming up.
There you go. Gotterup finishing 15 under for the tournament, 2 strokes ahead of both McIlroy and Marco Penge, P-E-N-G-E. He's from England. I'm not sure if it's Penge or Penge, but they were each 13 under for the weekend. So congrats again to the American Chris Gotterup, the winner of Scottish Open. Meanwhile, real quick, Wade Brown finished 3 under for the weekend at the Ascendant and was 60th. Keep an eye on him. That's going to do it for the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Lines. We'll see y'all at 2 tomorrow.